Welcome back to the band guide. I'm your band guy, Colin. And this video is the 5th video in a 6-part series where I walk through the 6 steps to a pro mix in GarageBand. If you haven't already, be sure to grab my 6-step checklist to a professional mix in GarageBand. It's completely free. I'll link to that in the description below. And today, we're talking all about effects. And by effects, I'm primarily talking about reverb and delay. Now, with this mix, we have 4 goals with effects. We want to add a realistic space around everything in the mix. We want to make the drum sound larger than life. We want to help the vocals take up a little bit more space, but also sit back in the mix a little bit more. And then we just want to do some cool stuff. So be sure to stick around. At the very end in that last step, I'm going to be showing you my favorite delay trick. And let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start by setting a room sound. Now to do that, I'm going to use this reverb knob. I often use this ambience knob, but the reverb knob gives us a little bit more control if you want a slightly longer delay, and I know I'm not going to need both today. So in order to do that, I like to start with a track that has a lot of transients and solo that and exaggerate how much reverb I want on it. So quick note about how this is happening. I'm not putting reverb on this track. These knobs are going to what's called a send, meaning that there's one channel that has a reverb and one channel that has a second reverb that's an ambiance that is separate, and all the tracks that I'm going to be sending from this knob on every different channel are going to that one send. So that really helps because it's all going to the same place, the same reverb. So any settings that I change on this knob will change for all the channels that go to that specific reverb track. So let's go and listen to that again. Now to edit this, there's 2 ways you can get there. You can right click on this and hit edit effect. And that just takes us over to this master. So we were right here. We can also click on the master. That takes us over to here. Just be sure you're on reverb small hall. So right now it's a really big room that we're in. So right now I have this sending just a whole lot to this send. We just want a small realistic space, like a room that you might actually hear this in. Just so it sounds like we're all playing together at the exact same time. If it gets too long, it's going to start clouding the mix. That sounded pretty cool to me. Now, just to avoid it, reverb, once you start adding a lot into it, like anything else, can start to get a little bit of muddiness in the low mids. So we're just going to dip out a little bit of this mid knob. And then I want to scale this back to closer to the level that I want it. All right, so to see that on here, that what I was doing over here on this is adjusting this knob right here. So if this knob were to go up, you see what I mean? Okay, so now we've set that reverb sound kind of how we want it to be. We could tweak it later, but we're gonna start with that. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put in just a little bit of this on every single channel in my mix. I'm not gonna do it as much for low-end sources, so the bass guitar, the kick will get a little bit of less, some of the bass synths will get a little bit less, but I'm gonna put a little bit on every source in this mix. So I'm gonna go ahead and fast forward while I do that so you don't have to sit around and watch me. And I will listen to each and just make sure it's kind of sounding like the amount that I want. Cool, okay. So I've put that throughout the whole mix. Just listen to a little bit of that. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. So it's starting to fill in a little bit of that sonic space, right? Because it's going to carry over into every little bit that there's not necessarily something happening in the recorded parts. It also helps glue together between the live recorded pieces and the digital pieces, which I find to be really helpful. So, okay, let's go ahead and dive into this next part, which is make the drum sound larger than life. If you've watched my drum series, you know I'm a big fan of this trick of a snare reverb. And I do it on these tracks as well. So on recorded drums too, live drums too. But the way we go about it is we just copy the exact track. So I duplicated the track, Command D. Now I have an identical track in terms of the processing that we've already done on it. It has the same EQ and compression. So this snare will sound exactly the same, but then we're going to put a reverb on this. So I'm a big fan of this Platinum Verb. And let's just listen to just this in solo. Super long reverb right now, right? So we definitely want to scale that back, but we also want to make this just reverb. This is basically just kind of like creating a reverb send for just the snare, but then because we don't have an extra reverb send for that, we're only going to have a reverb effect on this track. So this will be 100% wet mix reverb on here. Crazy, right? Now that's way too long. So let's listen with this snare here. Start to get this reverb time set. I'm also going to darken it a little bit. All right, now let's listen to this with kind of everything in the mix. I'll keep it really loud so we can hear it, and we'll kind of determine these final settings.
Higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh, higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher.
All right, now we're going to mix that back in, so we're going to bring it down and mix it in.
Oh my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh my love.
Let's listen in this verse here.
My name. Don't push, wanted you to know my name. Don't push me away, girl, I'm not here to save you, and you don't need to
Cool, so it's subtle, but it makes that snare have a really long tail to it. So it sounds larger than life, like you're playing it in a huge room, but we're not clouding up any of the rest of the drum mix. Okay, so we're gonna leave it there for the drums. So we have a little bit of room space around everything. We got a really long reverb on that snare drum. And now we're going to go into our third goal, which is to make these vocals take up a little bit more space in the mix. So we're going to focus on the lead vocals, of course. So I'm going to start by doing something similar, which is to duplicate, and we're going to make a second track here, and this is kind of like creating a delay send, that this track is only going to be the Vox slap track. So this is going to be a slapback delay. Typically with effects on vocals, I like to start from kind of the shortest, closest to the vocal, and then work my way out from there. So a slapback delay is just a really fast delay that just slaps right back. So right now they're identical tracks. We're going to go down here. I'm going to set a tape delay on here. And we're just going to set it the fastest setting. It doesn't necessarily matter that this is a 16th triplet. That's not really what we're listening for. We're just listening to how fast it is. We're going to set our feedback down a little bit. Let's listen to just this track for a second. So again, right now we have a dry signal passing through, so that's the original vocal, and then we have a wet channel passing through. That's just the delay. We want this whole track to just be the delayed signal. But I'm actually going to use this dry right now so we can kind of establish the settings, and then we'll scale it back.
Higher, oh, I'll take you higher.
A little bit faster.
Higher, oh my love.
And I'm going to filter it. So if we do a low cut, this is cutting down from the bottom, or cutting up from the bottom, cutting out the low frequencies.
Higher, higher.
And if we cut this, we're cutting down from the top.
I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. You're a wanted man, but I wanted you to know my name.
So we kind of have this radio effect going on now, right?
Higher,
this is really common for slapback delays.
Oh,
so let's listen to this in the mix.
Higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love.
Let's mix it in.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher,
The way I typically do this is I get it right up till I can just barely hear it, and I scale it back just a little bit. It's still going to be in there. It's still going to be adding that presence, but it's not going to be jumping out at us. If I can hear it easily, then it might be a little bit too loud for something like this, where we're going for something subtle. That's cool. So we're just kind of adding a little more information to that lead vocal in that space. So the second thing I'm going to do, so we already have a little bit of this kind of room reverb on this track, on our lead vocal track. The second thing I'm going to do is use this master reverb. So we'll come down here, I'm going to solo this vocal, and we're going to set this master reverb as just a vocal reverb. So we want this to be kind of a longer reverb.
Colorado, I'm just waiting for your call.
So to me right now it's too long already. So we're going to go ahead and go to the master, and we're going to go up here and go to master reverb.
But it's not gonna come at all. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh, my love. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh, my love. You're a wanted man, but I wanted you to know my name. Oh, I'll take
All right,
you.
and then we're going to mix back the level that we want. So let's go back to this track here.
Higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. You're a wanted man.
Cool, okay, and then we're going to do one other type of delay. So we're going to use this master echo here, and we're going to set a master echo. So the master echo we're only going to be putting on the lead vocal. So again, it's kind of like a vocal delay. And I want to do something that's timed, that sounds cool, and yeah, let's see. So we'll solo that out. Let's see, let's start here.
I've been the one when the money's spent and your head's under the waves. When the money's spent and your head's under the waves.
Cool. Let's see.
Here I am again, a hotel bed in Colorado. I'm just waiting for your call, but it's not gonna come at all.
Now in this mix, I don't want this to stand out at all, but I do want it to be present, so I'm going to make it really dark. This color is basically really bright or really dark, or from your perspective, really bright or really dark.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher.
So we have the bright reverb, we have the kind of high frequency telephony effect slapback, and then I'm going to be using this to kind of fill in kind of like the lower register.
Higher, oh my love. I've been the one when the money's spent and your head's under the waves. Here I am again, a hotel bed in Colorado.
So again, you're not really hearing it, but it's adding a little bit more of that frequency in there. So we're tucking the mix, the vocal mix back into the mix a little bit more. We're also giving it more information, so it's really still the most prominent thing in this mix. You want to be careful here, because if you do too much, then you're going to kind of lose the vocals in the mix. But if you do it subtly, then you're going to get a lot more space and a lot more information. Okay, so that's all I think I'm going to do with the vocals. Let's just listen for a second.
Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love. Higher, higher, oh, I'll take you higher, higher, oh my love.
Cool, and then the next thing I'm going to do is just some cool stuff. So I'm going to take this delay, this lead guitar, and I'm just going to put a little bit of stereo delay on it, just so that this track is a mono track. It's just up the center right now. But I'm going to do a little bit of subtle stereo delay so that it's kind of panned out to the left and right. to just get a little bit more out of this lead track. Stereo delay. So let's listen, let's see. Ooh, that goes really well with that part already, just that default setting. I'm gonna scale it back, because right now it's pretty prominent. So without this, just right up the middle, with this, it's kind of moving around your head a little bit more, right? I'm gonna go with that. Let's see. Cool, right? It just kind of blends out for a while. I'm gonna do, one thing I like to do with these types of settings is do a slightly longer feedback on the right, since it's repeating twice as fast. Since it's an eighth note on the right ear. And then also just, yeah, cool. Cool. Awesome. Okay, so we got one more thing for you, and that is going to be just something cool. This is my favorite trick, and that's this acoustic guitar. So right now, this acoustic guitar is pan up the middle. We only recorded one acoustic guitar for this track, but I always felt like it could use two, kind of a stereo acoustic track. I wouldn't record it stereo. I would just record two acoustic parts, but we didn't do that. So this is my favorite trick to get around this. And fun fact, I learned this trick when I was 16, 15, or no, I think I was about 18, at the same studio that I went back and recorded this song in 10 years later. So kind of neat developmental trick here for you. So this is an acoustic track here, so just by itself. So I put a stereo delay on it, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the stereo delay super, super, super fast on both sides, okay? So right now, just a little bit weird, just like a really fast delay. But the point is actually not to use this delay as a delay on this track. What we're doing is we're gonna set one track on the left ear as it was recorded, and we're gonna set the track on the right ear just a little bit delayed. And what that's gonna do is we're gonna hear it wide. So let me show you what I mean here. So we'll set this one, let's see, feedback's all the way down on both of these. Left mix is 0%, right mix is 100. Bam. Now I want to make this slightly faster. And then it's a little wider than I want it to be, but let's listen to it in the mix.
Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh, my
so I'm going to come down, I'm going to grab this direction mixer, and what this allows me to do is just narrow the pan. So this is panned 100% left and right now. If I bring this in, I can bring it to mono, but now it has both delays, so it just sounds a little fluttery. So now what I've done is we have the electric guitars far left and right. We have the acoustic guitar used to be right up the middle, and it was kind of competing with that lead vocal. Now we've split that acoustic guitar to be kind of like a 50% pan left and right, and made it stereo. All right. Let's go ahead and hear the before and after. Pay attention for a subtle fullness and for the vocals to kind of sit back into the mix a little bit more. They're still going to be on top of the mix, but they're just going to be kind of tucked in and sound a little bit more natural. Check it out. Higher, higher. Oh, I'll take you higher, higher. Oh, my love. Be sure to grab that 6-step checklist to a professional mix in GarageBand. And if this video was helpful for you, be sure to subscribe. Last but not least, I always like to finish with a question for you. This video, I want to ask, What is your favorite effect plugin? Let me know in the comments below. Mine is easily delay, but feel free to argue why yours is better in the comments. I'll see you next week to finish out this song with automation.